Good morning, everyone. George Watkins here from Singapore. Wow, what an exotic time this has been these last few days, hitting some of the spots that we read about and hear about and have history in as far as our historic views of our nation. I'm hearing words down here, names of places that were very familiar with us during the Second World War, when our boys were down here defending the world's freedoms. So here we are in the Philippines. We left yesterday from, I'm sorry, this is a busy time. I'm in Singapore. We left the Philippines, and it was like going from one time zone, one reality to another. The Philippines is increasing in its financial strength, but it's still a country that is struggling with a lot of poverty and so forth. The church we were in had a super wonderful time there. My last video I mentioned that the pastor, he's a bishop over churches. He's an apostle to the nations. I quoted the churches they have started. They've started 70 churches in 11 nations because of the Filipino workers that go around the world. And as soon as they get to a country, they start a home meeting, and it's not long before it becomes a church. And then the bishop goes and ministers to them, and it's just a wonderful thing to see the multiplication that's going on out of the Philippines. Now, with that in mind, I was talking yesterday, the last film, last video. I'm kind of in a time warp, so my brain's trying to catch up. The last video I talked about the things that were going on in the Philippines spiritually, and I want you to focus your prayers when God brings them by on these leaders in the Philippines that are breaking new territory and opening up spiritual plateaus that people can come up on and get on. And so just a whole spiritual increase in the climate. So we transferred via 3.5-hour plane ride to another reality called Singapore. Singapore is a city-state, very unusual. The whole city is a state in itself. And when you step into this, it's like stepping into Southern California in its glory days. I'm talking about everything's pristine, everything's trimmed, everything's new. There's things going on all over that are being built. We went into the airport. I'll try and send some pictures to you if I can. The Singapore airport is something to experience. So the spiritual climate here is yet to be ascertained as I'm moving around and meeting people. Last night we ministered to a man who is a businessman. He has a lot of businesses in Australia and actually in other places in the world. But our contact with him was a sovereign planning of the Lord. Who would know that I would leave our little Mount Vernon? We were talking last night about population. There's 22 or something million in Singapore, and I live in a town of 40 or 50,000. So it's hard to compare the experiences you have in life, but God takes you somewhere and puts you in the path of someone that you would never have met unless you got off the couch and followed the Spirit of the Lord and went through the doors of opportunity, which this trip has been that. A number of months ago, Abby McCracken, who is the daughter to Jeff McCracken. Jeff pastors the church in Rainier, Oregon, right across from Longview. We've had a relationship for quite a few years now. I've been in and out of this church in the last 10 or 12 years, a dozen times at least. Coming back from Australia about 6 months ago, Abby is a prophetic gal, and she said, I had a dream last night, Dad, and we need to take George on the next trip with us. So they invited me to come, and God provided the way supernaturally, so I'm really thrilled with that. Now, Singapore. I was here in about 20 years ago, maybe 22 years ago, and preached in several spots in Singapore. There's some big churches going on that are impacting the whole city-state, the whole city. What God always does is He has the big headlights, which people look at and say, "Oh, God's doing that," but yet, almost behind the scenes, He has the mom and pop spiritual shopping centers, home meetings, cell groups, small churches that are in a little rented building, and and nobody could find them except the 10 or 15 people that go. That's the heart of every move of God. When we focus our attention on the big conventions and the popular, well-known speakers, we're missing the strength that God is building into any nation and any place. Your own town where you're living, and this video goes out to quite a few places where you're living. Pay attention to the still small voice. Pay attention to what God's saying to you about your city, to you about your family, to you about the future of the spiritual climate where you live. My dad had a repetitive thing he said often when he was preaching about revival. He said, you want revival? Take a piece of chalk, draw a circle around yourself, and then pray, Lord, revive everyone in this circle. Because it starts at home, it starts in our prayer life, it starts in our confession life. We were talking to the gentleman last night that has the businesses in Australia and so forth. And he was talking about he's discipling other business leaders. Now, these people are running corporations. They're not running, the corner grocery store. And he was talking about the challenges and what the enemy is trying to do. But he made this comment. He said, I've got several men I'm discipling and in business, and they're Christians. He said, when we got rid of all the excess baggage, now listen to this, every sin that so easily besets you or hold you back or weights you down. Often we think, well, I can get away with that. I can do this little thing because God didn't slap me around and I'm still feeling pretty good. But he said, as soon as we had these times of interaction where we would confess one to another, or the weakness or the need we had, or the the failure, when they got rid of that little sin that so easily knocked them down, he said financially they shot through the roof and became faceted producers of wealth, whatever that was. And the numbers he was talking about, way beyond my pay grade. Now, today we're going to do some, now I know this is a shock, because I'm supposed to be in deep prayer and heavy preaching. We're going to do a little sightseeing. How about that? So we've gone through a pretty busy schedule in the last few days, and so our host here, Charlie and Kat, they're local people that live here in town, business people. They're going to provide for us a time of relaxation, and so I'm looking forward to that. Meanwhile, we are preparing to go into Penang, and we'll spend the weekend there, several days there. We'll preach in 2 or 3 churches and finish up our journey here. Let me give you a little view. I'm somewhere in Singapore, and it's 82 degrees. It's 8:30 in the morning, and it'll get up somewhere in the mid-90s. But everywhere you look, there's high-rise towers. There's construction going on. This is the jewel of the Orient, and I'm doing a circle here for a minute. Don't get dizzy. Amen. Okay, that was your trip to Singapore. I'll show you some more. I've got some pictures if I can figure out how to load them up. I didn't bring my computer. I'm working off my iPhone, so the system's just a little different. I'm at the Holiday Inn. The first time we came here, we came through the connection of a church out of Kent, Washington, with Richard Martin. He brought a team of us over in 1982, I believe it was. And we were focused on the rural areas, the islands, the small little churches. It was a whole other experience because it was in the highways and the byways, and we took the boat to the island, and we walked the trails, and we slept on the floor, and we ate rice and fish, and so it was wonderful. And the results we had are still going on from that type of ministry. But this one's to a different slice of this area here. Different people, different churches. We're not in the highways and byways. We're in the main highway. Excuse the pun. Amen. So that's my report for today. I'm going to hopefully take some time to interview some of our team members, and they'll tell you some of the miracles that have happened. We've had some wonderful healings. We've had some wonderful prophetic things. The last day in the Philippines, we spent time with the leaders, about 3 hours, prophesied over everybody, and had what they call a fire tunnel that turned into be a slow prophetic tunnel. But it was good. Everybody got prophesied on. Amen. Okay, well, I'll check out here, go in and get some breakfast, give you one more view of all the things going on in this little patch I'm in. Amen. Quite frankly, I couldn't get home without help because I don't even know where I am. But the Lord's good, and I appreciate your prayers, appreciate your attention to your responsibilities in the kingdom, and in that I receive your faith, your prayers, and your love. God bless. We'll see you next.